Hello, welcome to the Smile Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Thandi, here to bring you another episode on success, motivation, inspiration, life, or excitement. Today's guest is the founder of The Impactful Parent and mother to 4 children. Joining us to talk about children, parenting, and more is Kristina. Welcome to the program, Kristina. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for making the time to join us. So I can see behind you, you've got your banner. Can you maybe move to the side so we can see exactly the impactful parent?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's get right into it. So yeah, introduce yourself and where you're from.
Yeah, I'm Kristina Campos. I'm the founder of The Impactful Parent. I'm coming to you from the United States, right in the middle in Denver, Colorado.
Wow. Okay. um, so yeah, I spoke to someone else the other day from the US, and you've got elections, you've got COVID, and you've got winter coming up. So bit of a triple whammy there.
It is.
So tell us, impactful parent. I'm sure there's a lot of parents out there. So tell us what it's all about.
Yeah. So what I do is I help parents of school-age children with their teens or tweens and just all the difficulties of having a school-age child because I just did not feel like there was enough support
Mhm.
for that group of parents. So here I am, and I put out free content for you so that I could just help you along the way.
So you mentioned tweens. Is that 20s?
No, tweens are the ages right before you turn a teenager, so 8 to 12.
Right. I've never heard of that before. That's all. So
hmm
what made you start this journey with the impactful parent?
Oh my goodness. Now that's a loaded question.
Do it.
For me, my journey actually started with me crying in my closet. And I know that sounds unusual, but if you're a parent, then you have a place in your home where you hide from your family, where you hide away from your kids. And for me, that's my closet. And maybe you go there because you're trying to talk to your girlfriend on the phone, or maybe like me, you're just trying to express your emotions without a big audience. And so my journey actually started with me crying in my closet. Now, rewind a little bit, and the reason I was crying in my closet was because I had recently found out that my husband wanted a divorce, and I didn't take it lightly. It was a really big blow to me. I had a hard time accepting it,
Mhm.
and had come from such a fairy tale marriage. We met young. We had 4 beautiful children together, and he was very successful. And I thought we were happy, but it just goes to show, like, when I was wrapped up in all the things that I do, that I did not notice how unhappy he was, and that's my fault. I take responsibility for that. And so when he wanted a divorce, it it caught me crying in my closet. But to be honest with you, that was the more of an easier part. And I mean, the divorce was not easy, but when you go through something like that, there comes a point of pivot. And you have to decide, are you going to continue to cry in your closet and feel sorry for yourself? Or are you going to pick yourself up from your bootstraps and continue to move forward? And I think if you're a parent, it's a little bit easier to make that decision than if you're not. And for me, I have 4 people who rely on me
Yep.
and 4 eyes watching, and well, 8 eyes. So, but it's why how parents make that decision a little bit easier, because you have these people who are watching you, seeing how you react. And I, like other parents, because I am just your average mom like everybody else, um did not want to have my children see me destroyed. And I did not want them to think that just because something like this happened to me and I didn't want it to happen, that it was going to define who I was.
Mm.
So again, that wasn't too hard of a decision for me to make. After letting out emotion as you should and crying,
Yeah.
um, I came to the point of pivot and made the choice to move forward. The hard part of all of that came was after the choice was made, I looked at myself in the mirror and I didn't recognize who I was anymore. That's where the hard part came. And I think it's a phenomenon that happens to a lot of parents.
Mm.
You get whipped around in the whole parenthood thing that you lose yourself and who you are because you're taking care of everybody else. Like
Right.
parenting is one of the most selfless things that you can do because it's all about your kids. And you can get whipped up in that and forget who you are, especially if you're like a stay-at-home parent where you don't go to work and you don't have a different life outside of parenting.
Mm.
It happens so easily. And that is when the hard part really happened because I was lost.
Mm.
I was lost like I haven't been lost since I was young. Here I am I think I was 38 at the time.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? How do I not know who I am? But I did not know. Did I want to watch that television show because it's habit or because it's something I actually enjoy? Do
Mm.
I want to cook that for dinner or is it because he liked it for dinner? Do I really want that? Who am I? If I took away my children and my husband, who am I?
Mm.
And it was really scary. It's scary to be in that place. So I actually enjoy telling the story because I want parents to realize don't do what I did. Don't lose yourself in parenthood because it's a scary, very lonely place to be in. And you have to start making steps to finding who you are.
Mm.
Because if you don't live who you are, your authentic self, then you're going to be so sad and so disappointed and never happy. And the caveat to that was one of the reasons I lost myself was because I'm a giver and I love to give and I love to help people.
Mm.
And before this, I was in the teaching profession for over 20 years where I taught everyone from preschool to high school.
Yep.
And I love teenagers, and teenagers are very needy.
Very.
And teaching profession, as you know, it's not a 8-hour job and it's not 9 to 5. It's you take it home with you, you hold it on your shoulders. And I had to make that pivot again and make some really hard choices because my kids were becoming teenagers at the time.
Mhm.
And I saw that they needed me more than they have ever needed me before. And I had to make that tough choice of quitting my job so that I could stop taking care of all the other people's kids and start taking care of my own.
Yeah.
And it is through that journey of understanding that, wait a second, I have to make all these shifts in my life. It's not right. It's not how it's going to be. And unfortunately, it was a divorce that threw me into that, right? But
Mhm.
and not easy path. It was not an easy journey, but here I am in the other side looking back and think that was a way for the better. I needed to be with my family and I needed to find a way to be with my family.
Mhm.
And at the same time, I had to be me, which is still a giver, still helping people.
Mhm.
And that's the idea of how I actually became founded the Impactful Parent was because I really wanted to still help children and help people, but I had to make it on my own terms. I had to make my own platform where I can make my own hours and things like that so I can be there for my family.
Mhm.
But it's so exciting because now I get to still help teenagers, but I help them from the home.
Yeah.
I help their parents understand who they are and help their parents communicate with them better and help their parents create bonds with them so that they can be amazing adults. And that is, I now found it really, really rewarding. So I'm very happy, but it was not an easy journey to get there.
Mm.
And through that, I had to do a lot of self-exploration.
Well, I guess it's through your own pain and your own experience that you've been able to create something, and that's where a lot of great things come from, is someone's own pain and journey, and realization of how they can help others. So it makes the journey of others that much easier. Still,
You're yeah, exactly.
still is hard, but yeah, it makes it easier when you've got someone that's been through it that you can speak with and relate with a lot easier.
Yes. Yes.
So if we talk about like today, so with Impactful Parent, like, is that members, or how's your community built up?
So it's actually mainly a free platform. I give out free advice to parents weekly, actually, even like super more in-depth tips bi-weekly. And then I have it on three pillars of I'm creating community, I give advice, and I give free resources to people. Or not, some of them are paid resources too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's mainly just a following. Like, you just follow me on social media, you get to absorb the content, and then if you like what I'm doing, you can also do some of my paid services. But the majority of what I do is free because that's where my heart comes from. I feel like I want to help people,
Yeah.
and that's really where it comes from.
Mm-hmm. Let's
Yeah.
let's go back to when you were in the closet crying, regarding the divorce. Um, what actually went through your mind to tell yourself that you need to pick yourself up and get up, move forward, and continue with life?
Yeah. Well, you just need to. There's something that you have to dig deep, and you just got to push forward. I think that you have to start reevaluating and really look at that reflection and figure out where things are coming from. And um, I had to realize that I had put too much priority on giving to everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the tips I give to parents is that it's okay to make your kids your number one priority.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you're going to do that. They are your children.
Yeah.
It's okay to take your schedule and revolve your schedule around their needs.
Mm-hmm.
What's not okay is making your whole existence about them. And that's the hard part. You are so much more than a parent,
Mm-hmm.
and you were that person before you had kids.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of not losing them along the way and keeping that identity with you, which is not easy when you become a parent because you're so busy taking care of everybody else. But it's necessary, and it's actually you become a more impactful parent by doing that, because you have um, a more refreshed soul, because you're taking care of yourself, and then that in turn gives you more energy to take care of other people.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a nice cycle that it ends up becoming, but it's really difficult not to fall into the other side of totally making your whole life existence about being a parent. It's easy to do that, but you don't want to, because if your child, let's say, becomes a teenager, and teenagers are developmentally appropriately trying to separate from their parents. It's something that even the nicest kid will do, because developmentally that's what they're ready to do. Figure out who they are on their own, figure out who they try on all these different hats to see what they like best.
Yeah.
And part of that is to pull away. And if your child starts to pull away, and every parent's going to be like, no, don't do it. But if you take that to a different level of truly you're feeling that empty space,
Mhm.
then you lost yourself a little bit too much
Yeah.
because you are your own person. You don't need your child. Or maybe they go off to college and you have an empty nest, and now that pain comes back of
Mhm.
emptiness. And every parent's going to experience some pain, but it's about the appropriate level of, oh, I miss them so much. And then there's, wait a second, I don't even know what to do now because I'm not a parent
Yeah.
anymore. There's a difference there. And so when I was in the closet and I'm looking at myself in the mirror and I had to make the shift, you start making those differences, and it's just so hard
Mm.
to truly admit that that's what's happening. We want to deny it so much.
Going back to that whole bit about um, doing everything for your kids and being lost in that whole cycle. Like my son, he's 18 now, but I remember back to when we did prenatal classes. Um, the best advice we got was they are coming into your world, so they should be falling into your routine, not you into their routine. And a lot of that was around, obviously they have their needs, they're going to cry when they're hungry, you follow that process, but it's also not running to them like every second of the day, because that's the cycle that all parents fall into. We see it every day with parents, in that trap, especially ones that are, they're not working and they're stay-at-home parents, whether they're mothers or their fathers, because they're all day, they're cooking, they're cleaning and getting things ready, making beds and everything else. And exactly that point when they leave, go to college or something, then, there's that feeling of emptiness. And I know even from myself, I was, during my teens, tried a lot of things. And then when I was 17, I thought I'd just finished school. And I thought, you know what, it's time for me to explore the world, go see, live on my own, go through the trials of life. Um, so I guess when that come to a point for my son, you know, me knowing that that's what I've been through made it easier for me to accept that.
Yeah.
But not everyone's like that. So yeah, very interesting, because I'm sure there's a lot of people out
Yeah.
there listening right now that they're thinking, yep, we're in that cycle.
And it comes from a place of love. And I think that's why one of the hardest things to
Mhm.
understand. It's an accident to fall into that trap. You
Mm.
didn't do it intentionally. It came out of love. You're throwing yourself into parenthood because you love your kids so much and you want to do what's best for them and you want to be there for them and you want to be everything you can for them. But the problem is you you need to know when to stop and to take care of yourself too.
That's right.
um, there's that analogy about the oxygen mask in the airplane
Hmm.
that I know a lot of parenting experts will use, or even health and fitness people, where the oxygen mask comes down in the airplane, and the first thing they tell you to do is to put the oxygen mask on yourself, and then you take care of the person next to
Hmm.
you. And they always have a picture of a child.
Yeah.
um, it's the same thing. You have to take care of yourself so that you can take care of
Others.
the other person next to you.
Yeah.
But that's not our instinct as parents. Our instinct as parents is to say, "Oh, they're in trouble, take care of them."
Hmm.
And so if you're listening to this right now and you're a parent and you're thinking, "Is that me?" Give yourself grace. This is a phenomenon that's not only very popular to lose yourself, but again, it came from a place of love.
Hmm.
It's okay. It's just now recognize it and do something about it. Take care of yourself so that you can be better parent for them.
And I guess the same goes for going through a divorce, because you were in a place of love and now you're being hit in a different way, similar but different. It's like the reverse kind of, in a way. Um, so it is a big shock that, all of a sudden that there was this great life and now you've been hit through the divorce. And I've been there myself, so I know the feeling. Um, and that's where the pain comes from. So similar like with kids, that you're doing your duty with them out of love, and when they try to pull away, yeah, a lot of us do feel that bit of, and again, I've experienced that with my son. I think he's about 14. A lot of changes, and I thought to myself, how was I when I was 14? That's what made me realize. Okay, when I was 14, I know when my mum and dad said something, how I thought or how I felt. So now when I'm saying something, that's how he thinks or how he's feeling, or along the same lines. So, I guess a lot of it is, going back to your past and thinking and trying to relive those moments that we lived, to think, what are they thinking today?
Yeah, you're using empathy. It's perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, okay, with your children today, so how old are they?
Well, I have four, and they range between 8 and 18. Today they do.
Mm-hmm. And how are they all
Yeah.
doing?
They're doing great. We're really good. I still keep a good relationship with my ex-husband where we don't have a very conventional divorce, and
Mhm.
but we did what is best for us and what we thought was best for our children. I mean, divorce is a whole other podcast. So like going through that, but
Correct.
it's and that's a journey on its own, right? We've been through it.
Right.
But no, they're all much more well adjusted, and I think it's good that that I'm still being able to spend some time with them and to be with them when they need me. It makes a big difference. And now um my 16 and 18-year-old, they definitely need me.
Mhm.
And then I got two more coming up the pipeline to
Yeah, yeah.
teenagerhood. Um it's funny. I feel like parents make the mistake of that tween years that I was talking about, that 8 to 12, is probably the sweet spot of parenting where your child doesn't need a ton of attention anymore. They're pretty self-sufficient.
Mhm.
They're also not quite as rebellious as they're going to be in the future. So it's kind of a nice little sweet spot.
Yeah.
And sometimes parents make the mistake of kind of sitting on their laurels and not engaging with their kids as much as they should be. And what happens there is then they become teenagers and now they don't want to spend quite as much time with you. And the relationship that you could have built that was could have been really, really strong is now past. You miss that opportunity because they have moved forward and now they're in a different stage and there's no way that they can revert. Or I mean they can, but it's not something that they're not it's going to be in their nature because their nature as an adolescent is to separate.
Right.
So I'm always telling parents to take the time between the ages of 8 and 12 to not only listen to all the teen stuff so that you're ready for it and you're prepared and you're educated before you need it,
Yeah.
but also to really take time to do those bonds. So that's what I'm doing now with my 8 and 10-year-old, is really trying to create those relationships so that their teen years are a little bit smoother.
Yeah.
They're never going to be smooth, but
They're gonna be smooth.
smoother.
It's about enjoying that bumpy ride.
Yeah.
So look, we've covered quite a bit, and I really appreciate your time. For people out there who are in this situation with kids and they're not enjoying this bumpy ride, what I mean, like I said, we've already covered a lot, but what are 3 top tips that you can give these parents that are listening?
Oh my goodness. Okay. There are three primary needs of children. I'm going to make sure I don't mess this up, so I'm going to look really quick because I already have them down. And those three primary needs I talk about quite a bit because I feel like they're huge into letting people understand that they are going to they need to feel secure. So the three primary needs are security, acceptance, and power. And what I mean by that in a really quick format for your audience is security is not only physical secure, that they feel safe what they're in their environment, that they're not going to get hurt, but it's also security in love. Will you love them through thick and thin? Will you love them if they don't disagree, or if they disagree with you? They need that security and love really, really bad. So that's the first pillar that kids need in order to be their best selves. The second pillar that kids need is acceptance. And acceptance comes from, they want to know that you will accept them for whoever they choose they're going to be. This is especially important for teenagers who are trying on those different hats. And they want their parents to look beyond their choices and really just see them for who they are.
Yeah.
And accept them for that person. So you can make a bad choice and it's okay. I still accept you for who you are. And that's really important, especially for teenagers. But like if you have a LGBTQ child, that's even more more important to them. Or any kid that just kind of falls outside of maybe the norm. And the last pillar that's really important for kids to be their best selves is power. And that one's often misunderstood. What that comes from is that kids need to understand that their existence matters, that there's somebody out there that's going to miss them if they're gone, that if they do something, there's a consequence or a reaction to it. Because if they do something and nothing happens, then as adolescents will start to question, like, well, then why am I even here?
That's right.
And this is when a lot of depression comes into play, and you get kids that are suicidal because they figure, doesn't matter. I don't have any power. So that power comes from a sense of knowing that their existence matters, that they have purpose for being here in the world. And those three pillars are just super important. Of course, I could talk more about that, but that I would say is the essence of what you want to focus on in your parenting, no matter what age of a child that you have to make sure that those three needs are met.
That's amazing, because I can see a lot of those three things in throughout my life. Growing up, I had those. Sometimes I felt I didn't, but then there was times, obviously, that parents comforted me and assured me, and that was kind of passed on. But I didn't realize in those three categories. But now I look back and I do. So thank you very much.
Yeah, I just broke it down in a very, like, those things. But I don't think that enough people have just said, look, it's simple. This is where they came from. Those needs, what they really are. And if you just actually, for your audience, if anybody wants to see if their child's needs are being met, I actually have a free PDF that they can go. It's like a question sheet where you can ask yourself if your child's young, or if you have an older child, I highly suggest that you take those questions and ask your child themselves. And it will start that conversation so you can see if their needs are actually being met. And it's better to ask your child, because you may think that you're doing a good job, and in reality, they don't feel that. And it may not be from you. Kids need acceptance from the outside world too. They need acceptance from school. So, but at least then you can pinpoint it and say, oh, okay, so you're lacking in that need, but it's not in the home, it's at school. What can we do about that? And now you can problem solve with your child and help them gain that confidence that they need to get the acceptance at school. And that PDF is at theimpactfulparent.com/ what every child needs.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you very much once again for your time. Been a pleasure having you on, and look forward to seeing more about your community building and growing and thriving, because I think it's definitely something it's definitely evergreen, and there's definitely a lot of people out there that can benefit from it.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it so much.
You're welcome. Have a great day. Well, guys, I hope you really enjoyed that interview with Kristina. If you're a parent or a parent to be, jump over to the impactfulparent.com. I'm sure there's something there for you. As for next week, our next guest will be another exciting story. Stay tuned, and I'll see you then.